Well, hello and welcome to the Internal Mobility Podcast, where we explore all of the ways for you to reach your potential here at Randstad, while also making this giant company a little easier to explore and understand. Today, our special guest is Josh Vesely. Josh is the Senior Vice President of Growth Strategy for Randstad Life Sciences, RLS, if you're in the family, that's commonly what we call them. And that's a new role for Josh. So I'd like to start there since you've had some recent experience with internal mobility. Thanks for being here. And I know you've got big plans. So talk to the group about that. Like, what kinds of roles do you have available in RLS?
Thanks, Chris. And, internal mobility, just to make a quick comment, is not something new to me. So I am happy to say that over the last 16 years, I have worked in 5 different divisions of the organization. And I think I've had 9 or 10 different roles and probably twice as many bosses. So it's something that I started doing fairly early in my career and have experienced just a great amount of opportunity and growth from embracing internal mobility at Randstad. But Randstad Life Sciences, to put it very simply, is the organization that brings science to life. And the way that we do that is we help organizations develop, produce, and ensure that life-saving medications and therapies can reach the market. So anything from autoimmune disorders to cancer research and therapies, our organization is elbow to elbow with those professionals, helping to bring those life-saving treatments to the marketplace, which is really exciting and gives us a purpose. I think that's unique within the Randstad family.
Yeah, I don't know where I've been, but bring science to life. Nobody has articulated it just that way. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So, Josh, you and I have had some cool conversations about assessing internal talent. And maybe it's because of your experience with internal mobility, but I think your approach in terms of assessing grit is really interesting. Like, will you share with the group when you have an internal mobility prospect, like, how do you make a decision on whether they're a good fit for your team?
Thank you. Yeah. So grit is one of those terms I think gets thrown around or, is often used when playing buzzword bingo in the talent acquisition field. And so I think that it's important for people to understand that when you get feedback or when you think about how you're presenting yourself, the experience that you bring and the intelligence that you bring are absolutely important. But how you demonstrate that, I think, is through telling your own story. And I'll give you 3 things that I often look for. One is I want people to tell me about a time they failed. I think learning how to fail is ultimately the best way to demonstrate whether or not you have grit, because you have to get back up, dust yourself off, and still go at it again the next day. How you do that and the way that you can talk about it is really important. Curiosity is something that I just talk about consistently. And all that means to me is that you have this unstoppable or insatiable need to learn and really kind of learn about things that aren't even directly within your world. And then I think this is something else that people tend to hear from me a lot, but I think is a mark of somebody who has great grit. And that's being uncomfortable or being comfortable in the uncomfortable. So I want people to put themselves out there without necessarily knowing how it's going to go, but having the belief based on their preparation and experience and knowledge that they're going to be able to figure it out and make something happen within that situation. So those are the stories that I like to hear. And I think those are the best ways to demonstrate to a leader that you have grit and the ability to kind of have a fortitude to move through very difficult and sometimes challenging situations.
Love it. So grit defined, being uncomfortable, knowing how to fail, and constantly learning.
Yeah.
Well summarized. Beautiful. All right. So Josh, I'm curious about your favorite human forward moment in the last couple of weeks. What has that been?
So my new role brings me a lot closer to the field than I've been in 10 years. And so I have a number of examples that I think just every day I am surprised by and learn from. But a program that we launched actually with the help of ITA in the last couple of weeks is called Rev Up. And it's a group of interns that are coming in, and it's really helping us expose a individual to our organization and what we do, from schools and organizations that typically aren't the top class recruits for internships and programs that we hope to ultimately convert into full-time employees for Randstad at some point. So had my first chance to sit on a kickoff call and kind of share with these individuals what we do and the industries that we work in, and the amount of questions and engagement and just general curiosity and excitement that came back to us was incredible. And so one of the things that I will just say about Human Forward and about Randstad, and again, a selfless plug for Randstad Life Sciences, is everybody is familiar with pharmaceutical companies and scientific companies that we work with. But I think there's some, thought out there that, or assumption that unless you are a PhD or you have your MBA, that this is not a place that you can be successful. And that's just not true. So while we have a high awareness factor within our industry, I think people hold themselves back from applying and getting engaged within the life sciences because they think that they're not qualified. And I want to change that stigma. And really, this Rev Up program was seeing that in action. So I thought it was great to see how we can do that as an organization.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Josh, for being here. Thanks for your continued leadership. I'm excited to see what happens next for RLS because you're there.
The best is yet to come, Chris. I always appreciate you, and thanks so much.